So I think we'll especially just speak on Bhagavad Gita, which is such an important book. I was thinking that, like, I just landed in Delhi about 24 hours ago. And of course, I've been here many times, but if I hadn't, if someone comes and they land in a foreign place, they need to understand their environment. They need to understand its laws and how it works. They need to understand where they can get shelter and where they can get food, and all their necessities can be met. Otherwise, they'll be very lost in that place, and they'll suffer in that place. And so we've all somehow have landed in a place which we could call the material world. It's a very unusual place. What's unusual about it is that, in one sense, what Premamurti Prabhu discussed yesterday is part of what makes it so difficult. But we're made of spirit. That means that by nature we're eternal, we're blissful, and we have this. We're conscious, and this consciousness is also like our natural condition is that we're understanding things as they are. So we call this Sat Chit Ananda, right? Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means eternal, changeless also, right? There's nothing that, to ourselves, there's nothing that can be done to harm us. And then Chit is this consciousness or this awareness, but this awareness of truth. And Ananda and bliss, that's our nature, right? That is who we are underneath. But we're moving around in a body made out of a very different type of energy. It's not made of spiritual energy. It's made of material energy. And we're moving around through a world, through an environment that's also made up of this material energy. And its nature is the exact opposite. It's not eternal, it's constantly changing. Right? It's not conscious, it's actually, in a sense, dead matter. And it can be less than blissful sometimes too, right? As a matter of fact, we're much more prone to suffering than we are to bliss in this world. We can suffer in so many ways, right? And that suffering can become so intense. And we may ride a little bit for some time, thinking, oh, I've risen above it, but then it comes, it comes again. And unless we really understand who we are, that suffering hurts so much. And we see so much suffering in the world. So we need to get our bearings straight. We've landed in this place. We need to know where we can take shelter, where our needs can be met so that we don't suffer. And for that, there's a body of knowledge. Just like someone might come to a foreign land and they have one of these tourist guides. Sometimes they're good, I suppose. Sometimes they're not so good. But they can be helpful, right? And they can help you find your way. But we have in this world, for our tourism throughout this material world, there's an excellent tour guide, a tourist, what do they call it? Tour guide, right? Tour guide. They call the person the tour guide. They call the book also a tour guide, okay. So there's a tour guide, and that's called the Veda. Right? That's called the Veda, which is a body of knowledge that exists. This is what the yogis say, right? They say there is a body of knowledge. There is a tour guide for this world that we're moving through. It's not always easy to find, but there are people that have found it because I want you to consider something, and consider this very carefully. We're speaking on knowledge that goes back thousands and thousands of years. In this very land, this is one of the centers of it, right? And they said some things that sound very far out and that are hard for people to accept because they sound so, supernatural. That there's a body of knowledge that's floating through the air. It's everywhere. But most of us are out of touch with it. We can't access it, right? Now, if you told that to, like, I'm 59 years old. So when I was young, for the whole world, I tell you something, even when I was young, there was television and there was radio. So there was that idea that information can float through the atmosphere. But I think even more so now, that like within the four walls that we're surrounded by right here, every piece of information that's on YouTube is in this space right now. Think about that, right? How much knowledge on YouTube, how many hours and hours of film, and how much information is that? how many megabytes or gigabytes or terabytes, or I don't know what kind of bytes that you'd have to get up to even begin to understand how much knowledge and information is on YouTube. And it's all right here in this room right now. How can that be? And all you need is the right technology to be able to access it, and you can access it all. So I think we went back 200 years. We'd say, come on, that's silly. This information is floating through. But this is what the yogis always said. And they said, with the right understanding, in a sense, with the right technology. And the yogis have far more, a computer is, in one sense, sophisticated technology. But the human brain is far more sophisticated. What to speak of the mind, which is very subtle and very sophisticated. So it's superior equipment. And if we know how to use it, we can access all that information in the Veda. And so it's said that yogis would do this all the time. They knew how to do it. They knew how to reach in. They knew how to access that information. But as the Kali Yuga dawned, one sage in particular, recognizing that this was an age, it said, Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhaga Upaduta. People they'd have short lives. They would have always, especially what it says is, the mind is always disturbed, right? And when the mind is disturbed, you can't access that information, right? Short memories also. So one sage was entrusted and empowered to not only download the Veda, this body of knowledge, but also to edit it. In other words, it's like if someone gave us everything on YouTube, it would be too much for us. We need someone to break down the categories and give us the most essential information. Otherwise, there's just too much. So he did that with the Veda. He broke it down, and he broke it into different sections and for different purposes, so that we could get through this world better. But not just get through part of what was the name of that sage? Who can tell us? This is important for all yogis to know. You must know. Anyone?
Vyasa.
Thank you. Hey. Thank you. Who was that?
Louisa, hi.
Thank you, Louisa. Okay, great. Interactive here. So yes, Srila Vyasadeva, right? Vyasa, Veda Vyasa, Vyasadeva, Vyasa, right? He was the sage. He's so important to us. Please remember this name. I want you to make me promise you'll never forget this name. Can you do that for me? Raise your hand. I will never forget this. Yes, we know. Vyasa, V-Y-A-S-A, Vyasa, or Vyasadeva, or Veda Vyasa. Vyasa really is more of his real name is Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasadeva. It's more of a title than it is a name. But Vyasa means the editor. Right? He's editing it all. And so he gave us this body of knowledge, which we call the Vedic literature. Very vast, right? It includes the 4 Vedas, which are, hundreds of thousands of verses. And then it includes, within the 4 Vedas, there's a subsection of literature called the Upanishads. You've all heard of the Upanishads, yes? Okay, the Upanishads. So the knowledge that he was downloading and the manual that he was downloading, it's there to help us get through the world better, but it's also to help us get out of the world, to transcend the world, or even if we're in the world, to transcend the world. In other words, how we can rise above the painful influence of this world, the distorting and confusing influence of the material energy, how the spirit can rise above the spiritual, the material energy, even if we're in it, what to speak of going beyond it. Okay, all of this is good. But the Vedas, the 4 Vedas, they taught more how to live well within the world, how to accrue good karma so that you can live a happier, more prosperous, pleasant life. Right? But the Vedanta, the Vedanta means, can anyone say? It's a suffix, Sanskrit suffix, anta. The end, yes. So Vedanta means the end of the Vedas. It refers to the Upanishads. Or you could say refers to like the knowledge is culminating in them, right? The knowledge is coming to a peak in them. So there we had books on karma, how to live well in this world. And that has a lot to do with ritual and living good, being kind, being generous. Also recognizing that all the gifts that come to us, they come, it's not just random. They just didn't, it's not that the water and the sun and the mountain and the river, it's not that they just here by some random explosion. No, they're given to us. Right? They're given to us. And so we should honor those and respect those and express gratitude, feel gratitude and express gratitude to those who have given these things to us. And so that's these different gods and goddesses, right? They're all not the original providers, but they're kind of like in between. They're kind of the ones that took it and handed it to us. And so they should be shown great respect and honor. And so the Vedas deal a lot with that. How to do the right rituals, to honor the right gods and goddesses, to show your gratitude for all the blessings that you received in life. And through that, what happens? You receive more blessings, more material blessings. But the Vedanta, the Upanishads are saying, even if you get good blessings in this, good material blessings in this world, even if you get a good, healthy birth, nice body, born into wealth, you could have natural charisma and charm or education, good intelligence, and so on. These are all nice, but they come and they go, right? It's like a bank account, and then you spend it, and then it's gone. And even if you do this really well, what the Vedas teach really well, this is called the karma kanda, the karma section, how to cultivate good karma. Then you can ascend to higher planets in the universe, where the enjoyments are so incredible that they make the enjoyments of this world seem like nothing, right? And you go up, you reside on the planets of these devas. Oh, it's like, oh my goodness, what pleasures they enjoy. But they have one fear. What is that fear? And we talked about this yesterday. One of the things that's programmed into this world, time. That even though they stay there for a very long time, still it's limited. And the force of time eventually burns away all of that good karma, and then they come back down. And when they come back down, oh, it's so painful. I'm going back down into that dark, dark place again. Right? Then you're right back where you started. So the Vedanta says, you have so much more potential in this, going up and down in the material world, right? We're all going up and down, are we not? In one way or another, we're going up and down. And the Vedas can show you how to go way up, but then you're still going to have to come back down. So the Upanishads, the Vedanta, it's saying you can transcend it. No more up and down, right? You don't belong to this world. You're actually just like in a virtual reality. You can become free of it. So the Vedanta is this higher knowledge, not knowledge how to necessarily live well within this world, but how to transcend the world. Now, why is the Bhagavad Gita so important? Because the Bhagavad Gita is a very nice, you see, there was the Vedas, including the Upanishads, come at the end. And then came the Vedanta Sutra, which is a summary of the Upanishads, because the Upanishads are vast, there's 108 texts. And they're a little bit, with great respect to Vyas, but they're a little bit all over the place, and he recognized that. And so he presented them systematically and in a condensed form, and was called the Vedanta Sutra, the Brahma Sutra. Okay. So that's a much tighter presentation, but very cryptic, difficult to understand. Upanishads are cryptic, difficult to understand. I'll give you a verse from the Upanishads. You ready? Om Purnam Araha Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udasyate Purnam Purnasya Purnam Adhaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Translation. This is whole and that is whole. If you take away the whole from the whole remains. It's like, what? It's like, it's not easy to understand what this means. So what Vyas did is in the Bhagavad Gita, he made it much easier. He wrote this text called the Mahabharata. How many of you have read Mahabharata before? Raise your hand. Okay. Others with hands not yet raised. I could say, boy, you've really missed out. Or I could say, hey, you've got a great thing coming. Right? You know, although it's not like it ever gets spoiled. It's not like you read it one time and you're done, because you can just keep reading it and keep reading it. As a matter of fact, it keeps getting better. Mahabharata is so beautiful. Now here's another 100,000 Sanskrit verses Vyasadeva downloads and compiles, edits the Mahabharata. And Mahabharata was so important because it took, the Vedas were written for, do you know who they were written for specifically? Yes? No, not by. I don't mean who. No, but I mean, what type of person would read and study them? For Vedas. Especially the Brahmanas, the priests. But the Brahmanas and the priests. And especially they would learn all the ritual from it. But who would study the Upanishads? This is more the rishis and the sannyasis, right? The renunciates. You would study these Upanishads, they would tell you, you are spirit, you are not matter, and walk away from the material things. False sense of identity, false possessions, none of this is yours. Let it all go, walk away. When you see them here in Rishikesh, you can see these men dressed in orange cloth and the beard. There you go. And they're wandering off. And they left family and home and business and all of that because I want the truth, right? All of that was distracting me from it. Now the Bhagavad Gita is so important because most people, if you counted all the people in society that were the priests and the sannyasis and you add them all up, it's a very small percentage. What about everybody else? Right? That's what Mahabharata was for. Everybody could read Mahabharata. Mahabharata was just, you read the Vedas, it's like technical stuff, a lot of it. You read the Upanishads, it's like deep philosophical stuff. Mahabharata, it gave all of that, but in an easy to read. It's in no way less authoritative, in no way less authentic, but it's presented in a way that's just such a joy to read. As a matter of fact, it's like a page turner. You can't stop, right? Once that story starts going, you just need to read more and more and more. All the wisdom is in there. And it's a fascinating story, captivating story, wonderful characters, really beautiful, noble characters that inspire you to become a better person. You fall in love with them. And then other characters, very dark, right? very, very evil. You learn a lot from them too. You see that part of your own self, and you say, look, and say, maybe there's a little bit of that person in me. And so it's all laid out there. But it builds to this really important point where the hero of the Mahabharata named Arjuna. Arjuna, he's been the horrible things that happened to him and his family by their own cousins. And the worst, it all built, there was assassination attempts, tried to burn down their house. They gave their cousins were so envious of Arjuna and his 4 other brothers, the Pandavas. They built a house and they said, here, we built a beautiful house for you to live in. We wanted you to have the most beautiful house, so we built you this house. But that house was built in such a way that it was like super flammable. And the whole point was to burn them alive. Imagine, what kind of cousins? So envious. But even that was not the worst thing. The worst thing is, and many of you know this, when they created this crooked gambling match and rolling dice and cheating, and then they took all the property, not only all the property of Yudhishthira and Arjuna, the Pandavas, but even took them as slaves. And then they just did the worst, most horrible thing. That they said, your wife, Draupadi, she's my property now. This was Duryodhana, said their cousin. And then he turned to his brother, right? There were 100 of the Kauravas, the cousins of the Pandavas. And the eldest was Duryodhana. And he turned to the second eldest, Dushasana. He said, bring Draupadi here now, the wife of Arjuna and the Pandavas. And this was in a public arena. And he went and he grabbed her. He said, you are now the property of King Duryodhana. And she said, I'm not. And he said, yes, you are. And he grabbed her by the hair. Now Arjuna has to watch this, watch his wife, who he loves so much, dragged by the hair into this public arena. And then he says, and then Duryodhana, he does this really crude thing. He exposes his thigh. He says, you come sit here now. You're my property now. And she refuses. And then he turns to Dushasana and says, strip her naked right now. Imagine Arjuna having to watch this, right? And somehow he was pulling and pulling and pulling, but Krishna mystically, when she called out, what did she cry? Not similar. Similar. Hey Govinda. She called, hey Govinda. She called to Krishna, hey Govinda. When she realized I had, in one sense, this is one of the ultimate messages of the tour guide. Ultimately, I think I have shelter in this material, but there's really only one shelter. She cried out, hey Govinda, please save me, Krishna. And he did, and he provided so much sorry, no matter how much they pulled and pulled and pulled. They just had to give up. And then the Pandavas, along with Draupadi, were sent to live in the forest in exile for 13 years. But before they left, they took vows. Each one said who they were going to kill when they came back. And all the righteous people were like, yes, right? They deserve this. We can't have these horrible men, abusers of women, just murderers, take over the government. So they wanted the Pandavas to come back and kill them. And so each one took different vows of who they were going to kill. And Draupadi was like, she's turning to Yudhishthira, who's the eldest of the brothers, and said, why aren't you carrying out these vows right now? Why are you waiting 13 years? Yudhishthira's like, we gave our word. I cannot break my word, but I swear to you, when the 13 years are done, we will come back and we will fulfill our vows. She was not satisfied with that. She was not very, and Arjuna is feeling all this tension now within his own family, his loved ones. And he's just watched his wife be abused in this way, and he's waiting 13 years. And the Bhagavad Gita is the moment when the 13 years are done and he's standing on the battlefield and he and all his brothers are about to go and do what they've been waiting to do for 13. You see, you have to hear this whole story. Then when you get to the Bhagavad Gita, you're like on the edge of your seat, right? Yeah, like a really good movie that's really got you captivated, and Bhagavad Gita's got you right now. It's about to happen, finally. And where does the Bhagavad Gita start? I'm sorry?
Before the war starts.
Yes. And Arjuna turns to Krishna, who's become his own charioteer, and says, my dear Krishna, please drive my chariot between the two armies so I can see who it is that I have to fight today. And Krishna, Krishna sometimes is instigating things, So you can imagine, picture in your mind, and picture the movie, right? That there's a line that you just can't see the end of. How many of you have been to New York City before? Okay, that's where I live. Some of the avenues are so long, right? You can just look that avenue and just go straight. As far as you can see, just tall buildings. This is like armies like that. They're just like, as far as you can see. And this chariot with the greatest hero, Arjuna, on the chariot, and Krishna himself. Who is Krishna? People don't even, is he God? Is he a Deva? He's incredible, whatever he is. And he's driving Arjuna's chariot. Everybody's focused, watching this. And there goes that chariot of Arjuna. He's going to carry out his vows now. He's powerful, he's strong, he's determined, he's expert. And there's so many warriors, but Krishna stops the chariot in front of two. Who were those two? Bhishma and Drona. In a sense, they're Arjuna's grandfather and guru. The two men he loves as dear as his own life. And they're fighting on the other side. And when he sees this and begins to think about what's about to happen, he knows so many people on that. Many of them are his relatives. Many of them are people that he greatly admires and loves. He knows all of their wives and their families. And he thinks, what are we doing? And he breaks down. So that's Bhagavad Gita. He goes into an intense state of anxiety. That's the story in which the Bhagavad Gita is placed, right? Right when you're on the edge of your seat, right? The greatest hero, the person that you love from reading the story, you're ready for him to finally do what he has to do. That you're ready to see him bring down the evildoers, and he breaks down. Right? And he breaks down in ways that we break down. And then he turns to the only shelter. He turns to Krishna. Right? You tell me what to do. Now I'm your disciple. You tell me what to do. And all the wisdom of the Upanishads is squeezed into 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita and explained more clearly than ever before. Not so cryptic as before. Not so, this is whole and that is whole. Take the whole from the whole and the whole remains. No, it's actually really clear. Bhagavad Gita speaks very clearly. Again, it was meant for everyone. Right? Same philosophy, but expressed really nicely and clearly. And there's one other thing. There's many things. Actually, let me say there's two other things that become really important, that become crystal clear in the Bhagavad Gita, that might not have been so clear in the Upanishads. One of them is that you don't have to be a sannyasi to practice yoga, to transcend this world. And he's telling Arjuna, you're a man of the world. You have family responsibilities, you have government responsibilities, and he's kind of like the police department, as a warrior. He has many worldly responsibilities. And he's saying, I'm in so much anxiety, I need to become a yogi. Don't I need to walk away from that? No. You should be a yogi. But you can do it by being a warrior, by carrying out your social duties in this world. There's a way to see your social duties through the eyes of knowledge and work in this world and be active in this world and become a perfect yogi. And everything that the other yogis get, you get all of that. So that's one thing. But the other thing I want to mention is that what was kind of hidden in the Vedas and the Upanishads, kind of underground, but always there, and then sometimes popping up a little bit, and then going back underground. It pops up big time in the Bhagavad Gita and opens up. Like if there's an underground river going through the Vedas, and sometimes it pops up, it becomes like a little spring. In the Bhagavad Gita, it opens up like a big lake. And that is Bhakti. Right? That's Bhakti. That behind all of this, behind karma and time and the gunas, there's the programmer of the virtual reality, right? Who's the person that downloaded and installed the laws of this universe, who's behind all of them. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is going to say that when you know that Krishna is the person behind all the laws operating in this universe, then you know everything. Then you know everything. Should I read that verse? Okay. This is verse 15, I believe it'd be 15:19. Second to last verse in the 15th chapter. (15:19). Yomam evam samudho janati purushottamah sasarvavid vajatimam sarva bhavena bharataha. Whoever knows me as the supreme person without doubting, right? This is Purushottama. Purusha means person, Purushottama, the supreme person. Whoever knows me as the supreme person without doubting is the knower of everything. See, he's just spent this chapter describing the Purushottama. He describes the light of the sun, the light of the moon, the fire of digestion in the heart of every living being, giving knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Like that. The knower of the Vedanta, the compiler of the Vedanta. Krishna saying, I am that Purushottama, I'm all of these. And whoever knows me in this way, knows that I'm the one behind all. Before that, he was describing how the law of karma works. How every living being, according to their acts, is taking on different bodies and acting according to them. I'm behind that too. I'm the one that's programming the entire matrix that we're moving through. Then he says, one who knows me is that Purushottama. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting, is the knower of everything. In other words, they don't just have part of the picture. Now they've got the whole picture, right? Many yogis, they know that the law of karma works. They know about time. They know about the gunas. They don't necessarily know that it was Krishna behind it all the time. When you know that, he's saying, now you know everything, right? Imagine you were in a virtual reality and you began to realize, I know now how the laws of the virtual reality react. But then you know a lot. You know a lot more than most of the people stuck in the virtual reality, in the matrix. But if you knew who programmed it, exactly why they programmed it, then you know everything. Now you know everything. Make sense? Everybody with me? Yeah. Okay. So, but that's not all he says. He says, whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, without doubting, is the knower of everything. He therefore, it says, Sasarva vid bhajanti mam, knowing all of this, bhajanti mam, he worships me. And not just worships me, and he says, bhajanti mam sarva bhavena bharata. Bharata means Arjuna. Sarva bhavena Arjuna, with a full heart, with a heart full of love, they worship me. Everybody with me? When we understand the whole picture, not only how the matrix works, but who's behind the matrix, then naturally, when it all clicks, naturally, it's not even like, let me choose, naturally, with a heart full of love, you worship Krishna. And then what does he say? Now this is really important, everybody, okay? Because this is something that's harder to pick out of the Upanishads. But in the Bhagavad Gita, it becomes clear as a bell. He says, Sanskrit, this is 1520. Iti guyatamam shastram. Who knows what the word guya means? Anyone? Guya. But not far from here, there's a place called Vaishishta. They say gufa sometimes, right? But it's a related word. Or guya. Anyone know what that is, that place? It's cave, right? The cave of the sage Vaishishta. They call it Vaishishta Guya or Vaishishta Gufa. It's the same word here. Guyam, right? So he says again, Guyatamam Shastram. What is Shastra? Anyone know? Shastra. It means these ancient texts, these ancient scriptures, yes.
Holy books.
The holy books, the Veda, the Vedanta, all of that. This is the greatest. It's not just the Guya, it's the Guya Tamam. It's the greatest secret of all of the Vedas, of all of the Vedanta, right? Of all of the Shastras. This is the greatest secret. What's that? That Krishna is the person behind the matrix. And it's natural for the living being to serve him with love. That's the ultimate secret that's shared there. Right? Interesting, right? Bhagavad Gita. This is why great sages say that to understand Upanishads, we need the help of the Itihasa, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Puranas, especially the Bhagavat Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam. With these books, there's Vedanta, and then these are the books that help us understand Vedanta and elaborate on Vedanta. Like, for instance, the Bhagavat Purana, also called Srimad Bhagavatam, is a direct commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. You have the Upanishads, and then they are summarized and codified in the Vedanta Sutra, but very difficult to understand. And then they're commented on, they're fluffed out, fully and deeply explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Purana. Right? So if we want to understand Vedanta, we go to Bhagavat Purana. Then it all becomes clear. And what happens in Bhagavat Purana? Who does it especially speak about? Anyone know? 10th canto? Bhagavat Purana.
I guess Krishna's lifetime.
There you go. It's Krishna's whole life is told. It's 16,000 verses, 12 cantos, but one of those cantos is like 1/4 of the whole thing, and that's the 10th canto, and that's Krishna's life. That's something Vyas hadn't shared fully. And so he shares that in his culmination of all the Vedic literature, the Srimad Bhagavatam. He gets Krishna's whole life, so you can fall in love with him, like that. Okay, so we were hearing yesterday from this 15th chapter. No, maybe not from, but there's stuff here that's related to what we're hearing yesterday. And that was the law of karma, right? This law of karma is a very interesting thing. It can be a confusing thing, right? And I believe that we refer to it as cosmic sensitivity training, yes? Because this is going to be really important for the yogi. How you relate to all the other people in this world is going to be very important for your ability to advance in yoga. Everybody with me with that? Should I say that again? Because it's so important. Yes, say it. You say it out loud.
How you relate to other people will be very important to you to be for the path of yoga.
Yes, for your advancement in yoga. Excellent. Thank you. What is your name?
Gabriella.
Thank you, Gabrielle. That was excellent. So yeah, it's. Let me read 2 verses first from the 6th chapter. Now, what does the 6th chapter explain? Can anyone tell us specifically the 6th chapter? Yes?
How to control your mind?
Yes, it's about a particular type of yoga, which in you have to sit still and control your mind like with great effort. This is commonly, we can call this Ashtanga yoga. In the Bhagavad Gita, it's called Dhyana yoga. Right? It means that kind of yoga where you walk away, you go way up into the mountain, you sit alone. All of this is described there. You're celibate, and you go deep within, right? Challenging. This was what Arjuna thought, that's what it means to be a yogi. And Krishna is saying to him throughout 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th chapters, there's another type of yoga where you're active in the world. But Arjuna is not quite getting it. It hasn't clicked yet. So then he says, let me describe, or Krishna describes Arjuna, let me describe this type of yoga, this path of yoga. And he begins to describe it. Does anyone know what Arjuna says when he hears the whole description?
Yes, it's super confusing to control your mind.
Yes, very good.
Very difficult.
He says, Krishna, I don't think I can be that yogi. He's really feeling at this point it's almost like now there's no hope. Because if I need to become a yogi to become free of all of my suffering, but this yoga that you're describing is too difficult, because he says, because the mind is more difficult to control than the wind. Now what do I do? You understand? Have you ever said that to someone? Now what do I do? Right? That's how Arjuna's feeling. Now what can I do? Krishna says, oh, it's okay. Right? You'll do fine. You just need the appropriate practice to do for you, right? And you'll be fine. And then he speaks some very important. I won't get into that. We could go off in that direction. But as he's opening up this chapter, he's describing, you could say, the qualification to practice this kind of yoga, to have a mind that's so peaceful. Right? If the mind's not peaceful, you can't wrestle it down and get it steady and still. So to have that peaceful mind, you need certain qualifications. And he opens up the chapter speaking about these. And Arjuna has to hear these. Okay, Arjuna's saying, okay, I want to be a yogi. Krishna's like, okay, you want to be that kind of yogi? Yes. Okay, let me tell you about the qualifications of that yogi. Are you ready to hear them? I'm going to read 2 verses. Okay. And these are in the context of what we shared and that what Gabrielle elaborated on. That how we relate, this will be our theme for tonight, okay? And this is why karma is so important, because karma is there to get us, to help us relate better with one another. How we relate with all the other living beings is going to be very important in terms of our advancement in yoga. So, first, it doesn't have to do with the other people, though. It has to do with the other things in this world. There's things. First, we'll deal with the things. You ready? This is text 6:8. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's 6:8. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. This is interesting. Kuta sto vijitendriya yukta ityuchate yogi samaloshtramsa kanchana. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. What does jnana mean? Does anyone know what vijnana means?
Science.
Huh?
Science.
I'm sorry?
Science.
Okay, that's an interesting way to say it, yeah. Commonly, it'll be called realized knowledge, right? There's book knowledge that we know, we've learned it, we can memorize it, we can repeat it. And then there's vijnana, which means knowledge that not only can I repeat like a parrot, but that I've understood so deeply that it's matured in me. And now maybe we call that wisdom, right? It's one thing to have knowledge, it's another thing to have wisdom, right? A scholar, like a professor, in the university may know every verse in Bhagavad Gita and be able to quote it and explain it, but they may not realize any of the knowledge. They may be as materialistic and confused as any other person, even though they've memorized the whole Bhagavad Gita. You understand? So when that knowledge matures, and then you begin to see the world through it, I want you to think about this. See the world through that knowledge, that you naturally respond through that knowledge to this world. Then we call that vijnana. And here it says, jnana vijnana triptatma. That one becomes satisfied. What do we need to be satisfied in this world? A lot. If you ask, just stop someone on the street, well, I need a good apartment, a good home. I need, the right soulmate. I'm looking for my soulmate, and looking at, I need some new clothes, and, I need this and that. And the other thing, I need to be able to get away, to go on vacation, a certain amount of time in the year. And jnana vijnana triptatma. This person is satisfied, this yogi. If you're going to be that person that walks off and does this very difficult yoga, you need to be satisfied just with your knowledge and with your realized knowledge. That's enough. You can put me in a little prison cell. If I've got that, I'm okay. That's pretty high. Yeah, pretty high qualification. So it says, jnana vijnana triptatma. A person is said to be established in self-realization is called a yogi when he is satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Right? Arjuna already is probably thinking, if I had that, I wouldn't be suffering so much right now. And then he says, such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Okay, good one, right? Good verse. These are good verses. They're not so difficult to understand. Clear. But obviously we can talk about them and go deeper and deeper and deeper. Simple, but unlimited, both. Right? So what does that mean? See pebbles, stones, and gold is the same. Imagine you wandered way up into the mountains here. Here you see some of these yogis, but if you go way up there, things get quieter. And some of the real sincere yogis are up there, And they've walked away from the world. They've walked away from family, walked away from their home. They don't have a home like other people have. They might have a little cave that they sleep in. They might sleep under a different tree every night. Right? They've learned to become satisfied with knowledge and realization. And because that's so deep in them, they can live a life that other people would find very either uncomfortable, very difficult, even intolerable, right? Intolerable. For them, they're happy. Right? So if you found that person up there who's walked away from everything and is happy, and you gave this bar of gold, let's say a real big one, like this. I don't know how, I don't know how much money this would be worth, right? Like, you bought this thing. But let's just say it was worth like millions of dollars, okay? And you brought this bar of gold to that person, and you said, here, this is for you. What would they do? Well, let me first ask you this. What if they came up to you and said, here, here's this bar of gold worth many millions of dollars? For most of us, the heart would start to race. The mind would start to race. True?
True.
Yes, yeah. It's like, oh, all the things I wanted to get, I can get them now. And all the things that I don't want to do, I don't have to do them anymore. I don't like to go to work every morning and get up. I don't have to do that anymore. This is great. We become very excited. But if you gave that bar of gold to this person, it would be the same as if you gave him a big stone. You might as well, okay, maybe I can use it to lie down on, or maybe I can use it to hold something down. It would be like a stone to them. They wouldn't think, oh, now I can take this and I can go to Delhi and I can get money for this and start a bank account and buy a fancy. No, I'm good where I am. You understand? Stone and gold to them is the same. They value it the same. Also, it's the same on a more philosophical level, that they say this and this are made of the same stuff.
Right.
It's just a different, it's the same stuff in a different form, right? Same stuff in a different form. I'm not interested in this stuff. I'm interested in spirit, right? You've given me just matter in another form. I see both as the same, right? This is samadarshana, equal vision. I'm seeing them the same. This is the part of the oneness that we need to understand if we're going to advance in yoga. Right? Okay, so this is already challenging, that you need to be able to see stone and gold is the same. Then you're going to have the kind of mind that's peaceful enough to keep it under control and be very satisfied and go deep within. Right? If the mind's not satisfied, it's always going without, I need this, I need that. If it's satisfied, you can finally go within. So Arjuna's probably thinking, okay, tough, but somehow I'm going to have to get there. But then Krishna says another thing. Next verse. Are you ready for this one? This is where it gets, I think maybe for some people, they might say, well, that's not as bad. But if you really think about it, this is very difficult. And then Krishna says it. He says, this is the more advanced person. More advanced. He says, he says, a person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers. The word here is suhrit. Have you heard this word before? In Sanskrit, there's like, I suppose in English, we have different words for friend. Like we say friend, which is kind of a generic term. Then sometimes we say buddy, right? Buddy is like a more intimate, closer. What are other words for friend in English? Pal. Pal is something like buddy, I suppose. Homie. Homie means like my homeboys. Like we fight for each other. We're from the same hood. Huh? Mate. Yeah, mate is more like British or Australian. In America, if we say mate, it's like your marriage partner. So there's different words. In Sanskrit, these words are beautiful words. Suhrit. Does anyone know? Su is a prefix. It means, anyone know? Good. And hrit means hrid. Heart. Good-hearted person. Right? In other means, it doesn't necessarily mean it's like your buddy, but it just means someone that has such a good heart that they wish you well. Right? They're just a good-hearted person. So there's the good-hearted person, the suhrit. And then there is the mitra. Mitra here is translated as affectionate benefactor. I think mitra, it even means like an ally. Like an ally is a friend, but they're not like your buddy, right? So but you're out, sometimes they say that nation is our friend, So there's allies, there's good-hearted people. And then the next one is udasina. The word asana is in here. Udasina, they're sitting. It literally means sitting higher, but what it means is like aloof, right? It means like, I'm not for you or against you. I'm not taking your side or another person's side. I'm kind of above all that. So that means here is translated as the neutral. And then madhyastha. These mean situated right on the same level, or right in between, right in the middle. That means like here it's being translated as a mediator. I'm not taking your side or his side. I'm here to help.
What's the term for that one?
Madhyastha. Sta means situated. Madhya means middle. Like you have the state Madhya Pradesh in India. And then dveshya, the envious. And bandhushu. Bandhu also means friend, but here like relative, like a relative. Right? Sadhu, the saintly people. And then papeshu, the sinners. Right? So the saints, the sinners. A person is considered still further advanced when they regard honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral, mediators, the envious, friends, enemies, the saintly, the sinners, all with an equal mind. All with an equal mind. That's one thing to see stones and gold as equal. It's much more advanced if I can see all these different people as equal. You understand? Someone says one little thing about us we feel is unfair, we get upset. Yes? I mean, it can be brutal. I'm watching right now, America is just like all caught up right now in the whole political thing. And people are placing the kind of questions that journalists have to place before politicians. Please explain this. And like the president is just flipping out. He just cannot stand to be, how dare you question me? And then he starts to insult them. And so, someone says something bad about us, even someone questions us in any way, we can become very disturbed. What to speak of someone's dead set against us? What to speak of someone's declared enemy? Sometimes the mind can get so caught up in this. And think about Arjuna, Dushasana, Duryodhana. Duryodhana turned to Dushasana and said, grab Draupadi by the hair, bring her in here, sit on my lap, strip her naked. Right? The vow that Arjuna's brother took?
Yeah.
What did he say?
He will kill him and he
Keep
will
on
remove his chest and
Yes. He said,
his blood he will wash his hand.
this is Arjuna's brother, which was Bhima. He was the most fully embodied the warrior spirit. When I return from the 13 years in exile, I swear to you all, hear my word. When I return, I will kill all 100 brothers, all these 100. I will kill them all myself. And he said, in the thigh that Duryodhana exposed to Draupadi, with my club, I'll shatter that thigh and kill him. And the hand that touched Draupadi's hair, Dushasana's hand, I'll sever that hand from his body. And I'll rip open his heart. And I'll drink his blood. He said. And everyone's like, whoa. So these men were like really down to kill. And so now there they are. And Arjuna's thinking, I need to see Duryodhana, Dushasana, the same way that I see Bhishma and Drona, or the same way I see my friend Krishna, or the same. How can I do that? I don't know if I can be this yogi. I don't know if my mind, I don't know if I can do that. And I don't think my mind is so peaceful that I can see these enemies of mine as my close friends. So then Krishna goes on to describe more and more about what it means to practice that yoga. And by the time he gets towards the end of it, Arjuna says, I don't think that I can do that. I don't think I can do that. But what does Krishna say? It's okay, right? With the right swadhyaya and the right, it's slipping my mind right now. With the right practice and the right study, isn't it? Detachment. With the right swadhyaya and the right vairagya, then you can find the right yoga for you. And then he says, but you should be a yogi. And then he says the last verse of the chapter, what is it? Yoginam api sarvesham. Amongst all the different types of yogis, madgatena atmana, shadavan bhajate yomam. The one who's always thinking of me within themselves, right? Fully devoted to me, worships me. That person, same yukta tamo mataha. They're the most connected in yoga, right? And the highest of all. That's, Krishna says, that is my opinion, right? So you can be a bhakti yogi, right? So that gives new hope. That gives new hope to Arjuna. Okay, it's at that point when he kind of lets go of his idea of, I will wander away from the battlefield and become a yogi. Okay, well then how do I do that? How do I practice that? I'm always thinking of you, right? That's what now the next 8 chapters is all about, how to always be thinking of Krishna. But in order to be that way, we still need to be yogis. And we still need to see every living being equally. And that's going to be very challenging, right? How do we, this is important. This is real important. We may come to the path of yoga, we may be attracted to it, we may find teachings that resonate with us. We may find practices and aspects of the culture that resonate with us. We may even adopt it and say, this is my path. But as we walk that path, we need to become more, and not just more committed, but we have to come to the point where we become completely committed. And that can be scary and challenging, right? Certain points in our lives, we have to make decisions that affect the rest of our life. You know, when we're young, those decisions are being made for us, right? Here's where we're going to live. Here's where you're going to go to school, et cetera, et cetera. And then you grow up a little bit, and then you get to a point in life where you have to make crucial, life-changing decisions for yourself. Should I marry this person, right? You know, should I move to another city and take another job? Because once I do that, everything changes. It's like there's a certain security here, even if it's not perfect. I'm used to this. And sometimes we have to walk through a door in life and not turn around. You've all been there before? It can be a little scary, right? Well, this path of yoga is like that, right? We have to walk through doors and not turn back. And part of that means that I'm willing to accept what is favorable for my yoga practice and reject what is unfavorable for it. Right? It doesn't mean that everyone has to walk away and become a sannyasi. But we do have to accept what's favorable and reject what's unfavorable. And get so deeply committed to this that it becomes deeply, internally transformational. Right? We have to challenge ourselves. We have to pray that we never give up the determination to take the next step, the next step, the next step. And the Bhagavad Gita is telling us how to take those steps. And sometimes it's quite repetitive about what it's telling us to do, right? How to see every other living being with equal vision. It's called Sama Darshana, equal vision, right? How do we see? How do we see another living? How do we see all the living entities, right? Commonly, we'll look at them, and based on the body, we come to different conclusions and different feelings about them, right? Well, this one's a human, right? This one's a man, this one's a woman. So they have different value to me, right? We see in terms of our own pleasures or comforts or satisfactions, and then we size them up in relation. We place ourselves, in a sense, in the center, and then we see how everything relates to us as the center. Okay, and then we respond accordingly, right? This one is attractive, this one's repulsive, right? This one's from my home, this one's a foreigner, right? This one's a human, and this one's an animal, and this one's a plant. Now, the yogis, they see these external distinctions, and they can operate appropriately according to the external bodies. But all along, at the same time, running parallel with that external vision is an internal vision. And that internal vision is the more important one. You understand? Both are going at the same time. There's this type of art, I always forget what it's called, but the kind of picture that you have to stare at, stereogram. It's called a stereogram. You look at it, it looks just like kind of a blurry thing, but then you look at it, and then a 3D image comes out of it. You've all seen this before? Called stereogram. Why is it called stereogram? Anyone know? No, stereo. Stereo, because what is stereo sound? It's not just like one, it's coming to you from two directions, right? Yeah, multi-directional. So stereogram means you need to see it from two angles. That means you need two eyes. If you cover one eye, the image will never come out. It has to be seen from two perspectives. And when you see from two perspectives, the image appears in front of you. Okay? So on one hand, as we're living in this world, we do need to judge by externals. We do need to discern, right? We are going to respond to a man one way and a woman one way under certain circumstances. That'll be socially acceptable and appropriate. We may have to respond to an animal in a different way than we respond to a human being. But always compassion. Because always we know that we have this eternal vision that underneath that different body is the same exact spiritual energy that I'm made out of, right? The same. And the yogis, they think deep about this, right? You stare into that stereogram with both eyes, and then it comes out. If we maintain, most of us were trained almost, let's say 97, 8, 9% on the external material vision and how to be successful in this world based on that. The yogis are saying, no, this is even more important. Then you begin to understand what we are. Who am I? right? I am a spark of spiritual energy, right? Eternal, full of knowledge and bliss, moving through a world made out of material energy, within a body, a machine made out of material energy that I've received, that's been specifically encoded karmically to fit right around my state of awareness, my state of consciousness. And I'm moving around it for a short time and it's changing at every moment. But I am eternal, right? And I'm struggling to try to find the happiness that is my nature through a world of matter, right? That's who I am. That's what I am. That's what we all are, right? Krishna's saying in the Bhagavad Gita that all the living entities are my eternal fragmental parts, right? Due to conditioned life, they're struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. That's what the yogi's seeing, right? Each one of us is struggling in the bodies that we're in, right? But underneath it all, right, is that pure spark, right? Some are saintly, right? It said the friends, the well-wishers, the benefactors, the neutral, the mediators, the envious, friends, foes, see them all the same. How can you see them all the same? Because it's not only the physical body. Like some of us will say, yes, well, racism is wrong, sexism is wrong. But we should judge people on their behavior, and there's truth to that. But the yogi sees through that too. Even if operating through their body and through a mind that's been warped, even if what comes out is harsh or crude or violent or wrong, I know still there's a pure spirit underneath. I still know. Even if they directed that harsh energy at me, I still don't hate them. There's no room for that hate in the yogi's mind. Because I know that, not only do I know that there's a spirit in there that's just made of the exact same pure energy that I'm made out of, I also know that I've been in all these bodies too, and in all these mindsets. When I say body, I don't just mean the physical body, but I mean the mindset, right? I've been human, I've been animal, I've been man, woman, black, white, I've been plant, right? I've been sinner, I've been saint. We take it for granted I've been through all these different stages, right? And so who am I to judge anyone? We're all sitting here in this ocean, bobbing up and down, struggling to try to become free, right? So even if they have this negative energy, even if they direct their negative energy at me, I still see them equally, like that. And here, the cosmic sensitivity training is so important, right? When I said that we get 99% of the material vision provided to us in our Western training that we've got, maybe the 1% that we get is like this golden rule, or the deeper that we go into the spiritual traditions, like if you go deep into Jesus's teachings, you'll learn what's the most important teaching. When the disciples asked Jesus, what's the most important commandment? Anyone know what he said? Think of this question, because it's a question. You can relate this to what I was speaking about earlier, how there's the 4 Vedas and they teach you how to do well in the material worlds, right? That means that you get good karma, that you don't get bad karma, that you get good reactions, not bad reactions. So the disciples of Jesus said, what's the most important commandment? Is it thou shalt not kill? Is it thou shalt do this? Thou shalt not do that? You ask this question because you're concerned, in a way, it's like asking, what's the most important thing to follow so that I don't have bad things come at me? Is it that I don't kill anyone? Right? Is it, or which one is it? And Jesus transcends it entirely, and he takes it to the level of bhakti. Get off the karmic level of thinking, come to the bhakti level. That's the more mature teachings, right? So he says, the most important, because they meant one of the 10 commandments, right? One of these laws. And he just took them, put them all aside. And he said, to love God with all your heart, with all your mind, and all your soul. And to love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's samadarshana, right? That's bhakti and samadarshana. You understand? So he's like, yeah, forget this concern about how I will get good karma and avoid bad karma. Transcend it. Yes.
In some situations where influenced by the prarabdha, so what should we do?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Influenced by prarabdha, like the past karmic actions.
When we're,
Try to hinder the progress in like today's time.
one more time, please.
I'm asking, like, we are influenced by prarabdha, like what we did in the past life. Now it is being influenced on us now.
Yes, what we've done in the past is now
Yeah.
being influenced on us. And the question is,
Yes. So like, how to deal with that?
how to deal with that? How to deal with our past karma that is now manifesting in our life?
No, it's just a question.
That's the question. I got the question correct? We tolerate it, actually. We tolerate it. And we offer it, and whatever we have, we offer. See, this is the way Krishna is going to say, whatever you do that as an offering unto me. Right? So we're all born. When I think a lot of times when we hear about karma, we tend to simplify it. Really simple, like I bonk someone over the head, and then someone bonks me over the head. And in one sense, okay. But really, the sacred texts speak of karma in two ways. One is, yes, the physical things that happen, but the other is how your mind gets shaped by your actions. And that brings you further down. But like when Bhagavad Gita is speaking about karma, it's saying that we do activities and they determine our next birth. In other words, the type of body that we get, that's our karma. Let me go back to the 15th chapter just for a moment to show an example of this, okay? And this is that vision that we need to cultivate. 15th chapter, beautiful chapter, 20 verses, short chapter, but just so full of insight. So the verse that I just quoted a moment earlier, Ma vangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashastan driyani prakriti-stani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world, in this matrix, are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, due to the karma and the mental programming that they've developed, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. They're trying to find comfort and satisfaction through their senses and develop a satisfied mind. But it's so difficult in this world. The living and so now they're struggling, they're working, they're trying to find pleasure, right? But that's going to lead to them doing actions, and those actions are going to have reactions. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another. You carry mental programming from one body to the next, as the air carries aromas, right? The air carries a subtle aroma with it. The soul takes the subtle parts of the subtle mind with it into the next body. Then he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. According to the programming, according to the actions, we get a particular type of body. Might be human, might be animal, might be plant, might be male, might be female, whatever. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, another material body, obtains a certain type of eye, right? The human eye is a pretty good eye, right? But it's not nearly as good as the hawk eye, right? You see these hawks, they're flying way up there, and they can see little things on the ground. And their eyes are attracted to certain things, and our eyes are attracted to other things. So you get a certain type of eye, ear, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, right? The dog nose, do you know how much more powerful the dog nose is to the human nose? Like we don't walk around going, right? But we get more info from our eyes. They're getting it right here, following it around, because it's something like, it's ridiculous. It's like either like 4,000 times more powerful or like 40,000 times, it's something like crazy. Like it's a much more powerful instrument, right? So you get a different type of body according to your previous work. And thus and it says they're grouped around the mind. The mind is like a computer. The eyes are like the camera. The ears are like the microphone, et cetera, et cetera. Thus this person enjoys a particular set of sense objects. All right, that's the body that we're in. I've got this body right now. It's a human body, male or female body, maybe certain height, certain strength, certain intelligence, power. That's what we've got based on our previous activities.
100,000 times, sometimes even 1,000,000 times.
I don't know how that can be.
Sensitive for the dogs who are trained.
Amazing. The dog knows this 100,000 times, and sometimes it's even said 1,000,000 times more powerful.
Those who are trained.
Oh, trained. Amazing, right? Yeah, it's like crazy, right? These dogs can like sniff out stuff. Okay, enough of dogs. The foolish, now this is important. This is where we're getting to the vision. So what was just described is according to our karma, we take on a different body. And it says the foolish cannot see this. They can't see that this is all happening. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor do they think that he is the body. You understand? A person that's not well informed sees a body and says, that's the person, it's the body. But the person with what Krishna is about to call the jnana chakshusa, who's seeing through the eyes of knowledge, says, no. That's a person moving through a particular body.
That's the Maya.
Yeah, that's the Maya makes us think it's that the body is the person. Or even the mindset is the person. Right? This is another stage, right? Okay, I won't be sexist, I won't be racist, but I'm still going to love or hate people based on what they do. But the yogi's going beyond that because they're also not judging them based on the mindset. Again, they may discern, but they know underneath, all along, that there's that pure soul, and therefore there's no hate in them. They can love their enemy. Right? They can love their enemy. They can love every living being, not just the ones that are doing good or the ones that they think are doing good. They can love every living entity. Without that, the mind doesn't become peaceful, and you can't go deep into yoga. You can't go uncover your bhakti. So he says, the foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature, the gunas. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge. This is like taking the nose up from 1,000 times human to 1,000,000 times human. Right? One whose nose is trained, but one whose eyes are trained with knowledge. I don't just see through this lens. Let's think about this, right? I'll read it. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. Right? They don't just see the body, they see the soul within the body, moving to body to body. They can see all this. One whose eyes are trained in knowledge, they have the jnana chakshusa. They see through the knowledge, not just through the lens of the eye. But as that information comes, we all get data, right? Visual data enters the eye and it goes to the mind. Yes? But because he's got the eyes of knowledge, which is a figurative term, right? All of that knowledge is really processed through the intellect. You understand? That's where the knowledge is resting. And the intellect is processing that knowledge so that they're seeing something different than someone else sees. That makes sense? In one sense, like two different people are looking at the same object. One, and their eyes are essentially the same. If you were to take their eyes out and switch them, they're going to get the exact same understanding and picture and see the same thing. But if you were able to take their minds and switch them, see, because that's where the real seeing is taking place, right? Or let's say that's where the processing of the knowledge. Who's the seer? What sees? Do the eyes see? Does the mind see? The soul sees. The soul is the seer. That's why in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali, when he says that when the mind becomes still, that is called yoga, right? The fluctuations of the mind still. And then what does he say? Then the drista, then the seer abides in their own true nature, right? It's not the eyes he's talking about. It's not even the mind that he's talking about. He's talking about the soul, because the soul is the real seer. So two people are looking at the same object. The eyes are the same. It's passing through. If they're human, I suppose if it's a hawk, it's a little different, but essentially it's the same. But according to how the intellect has been programmed, the buddhi, it's called in Sanskrit, the reflective part of the mind, the discerning part of the mind, the reasoning part of the mind. According to how that has been developed, they're going to process the same vision very differently, right? Like sometimes we say, like some people will walk into an event like this and say, oh, this is so nice. This is a nice gathering where they're discussing important information that can help us become better people. And another person walks into the exact same setting, sees the exact same things. This looks like a great place to pick up girls, right? It's just like, they're just, because they have a different intellect that's been shaped in a different way. They see the exact same thing and they see it in a different way. They may be right or wrong, but the point is, here it's saying one who's seeing with the eyes of knowledge, with this type of knowledge, with this jnana, with this understanding of atma jnana, what the soul is. They're not seeing this person's good, this person's bad, I like this person. They're seeing the soul in everyone, right? And they're seeing it spontaneously. It's not like they have to tell themselves this and remind themselves. That process is how the knowledge matures from knowledge to realization, from knowledge to wisdom, through reflection. And gradually, as it matures, it becomes more settled in, and then we're seeing the world through these eyes. That's how the yogis see, right? This next verse kind of concludes this part of the Gita. The endeavoring transcendentalists, yogina, it says the yogis, who are situated in self-realization, can see all this clearly. Pasyanti means to see, right? They can see all this clearly. But those whose minds are not developed, right? They haven't had that download of knowledge. They haven't cultured that knowledge in such a way where they begin to process it through that. But those whose minds are not developed and who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though they may try to, right? Though they may try to, because they haven't made the endeavor to retrain their mind, to download the right information, start it up within their intellect, and strengthen that, through just like any other muscle by using it through reflection. Also, the blessings that one gets, right? Because in the end, the 10th chapter, Krishna, what's he going to say? What is it? 10:10. Hare Krishna, see, that's my mind is always forgetting. It's such a famous verse. Give me the first word, someone. Tesham, thank you. Who is that? Extra credit. Nityananda Chandra, thank you. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tvam yena mam upayantate. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, Krishna says, the bhakti, right? Dadami, I give. Dadami, buddhi yogam tvam. To them, I give them buddhi yoga. I give them the intellect that can process the knowledge in the yogic context, right? To unite with me. I give it. So yet we cultivate it, and we try to, through our practices, to become receptive to the blessing of that type of vision. Right? That's the endeavoring transcendentalist. That's the endeavoring yogi, the bhakti yogi. So we get our karma. We all have got a certain body. We've all got a certain even mindset. We make an offering of it. We see, my body is not mine. Is it mine? Yes or no? Whose temple? What's the deity in the temple? No. The mind's not the deity in the temple. If the human body is a temple, or any animal body or a plant body is a temple, which it is, and it's very good that you brought this up, I appreciate it. What's the deity in the temple? And especially, there's not just one soul, there's two souls in everybody, yes? What's the other soul? No. And this is something, okay, what was the one thing that everybody's going to remember and never forget? No. We said earlier today, there's one thing that nobody's ever going to forget again.
Vyasadeva.
Thank you. Vyasadeva, right? The compiler of all the Vedic literature. Now here's another thing that we must remember. Within every body, this is Bhagavad Gita, this is Upanishads, this is fundamental yogic knowledge we all need to know. Ready? Within every living body, there's a soul. It's the soul is both the user of the body and the mind, right? The one that's experiencing through the body and the mind, but also like the battery that runs the body, right? Because as soon as you take the soul out of the body, it's dead and it starts to decompose. So the soul is kind of like two things. It's kind of like the user, the computer, and the driver of the vehicle of the body, right? The user of the computer of the mind, the driver of the vehicle of the body, right? But also the battery, also that gives it energy. Matter has no power like that. Spirit has the power, right? It's spirit that makes the body come alive. The body actually doesn't come alive, but makes the body look like it comes alive. So that's spirit. So within every living body, there's a soul. The soul is conscious. Matter is not conscious. Doesn't matter how, and scientists, believe me, they're trying like crazy to try to create consciousness out of matter. They cannot do it because it's the soul, it's spiritual energy that's conscious, the Atma that has consciousness, that has awareness. So within every living body, there's an Atma, and that Atma spreads its awareness throughout the body. So within this body right here, my body, my quote unquote my body, is me. And my consciousness is spread throughout my body, and throughout your bodies, there's you. And your consciousness is spread throughout your body. You don't know what's going on in my body. I know, because my awareness is spread. Do you know if I'm hungry right now? You don't know. I know, you don't. But I don't know if you're hungry right now. You know what's going on inside your own body. I don't. My awareness has not expanded into your body. Mine is, my whole body is going through, right? The yogis say it like this, that within, sometimes they call it the cave of the heart. They speak of the Upanishads speaking like the cave of the heart. There is that soul, right? In this area of the body, there's the soul. And when the blood passes through this area of the body, it gathers consciousness, awareness. And that spreads wherever the blood flows, that awareness flows. You understand? So like if someone were to sneak up behind me and just touch me just really lightly on the back, I would feel it. Even though I can't see it, my awareness is there. If they were to come up and touch me on the little tip of my toe, I would feel it. They come and just touch me right in the top of the head. I'd feel it because the blood is flowing there. What if you took a tourniquet, took a rope, tied it really tight around underneath my knee? What happens to my awareness in my foot? Huh? Because the blood flow stopped, the awareness stops, right? So it becomes numb. Sometimes we just sit here long enough, our foot becomes numb, right? Now if someone touched my toe, I don't even feel it. They could take a pin, stick it right in my toe, I don't feel it, right? Then you release it, the blood starts to flow, the awareness flows again, the consciousness flows into that area of the body. So my awareness is flowing through my body. Your awareness is flowing through your body, but there's another soul in each body. This is the important part I wanted to share. What's the name of the soul in Sanskrit? What do we call it? What word? Atma, right? Self. But there's another Atma called the Param Atma. Param is a prefix. What does it mean? Supreme. The Supreme Atma. Now the difference between one of the differences between the Atma and the Paramatma is the Atma spreads its awareness throughout one body. The Paramatma is not only in my body, it's in your body, in your body, in your body, in everybody's body. Right? Actually, the Paramatma is so fast. Am I going on too long? I should end now. Soon, okay. so yeah, I understand. We have schedules to keep. When we speak of Paramatma, usually we're talking about that within every person, and every animal, and every plant. There's not only the soul that has that plant growing, but there's the Paramatma. Krishna. It's really a form of Krishna. He's expanded into a Vishnu form. And that form of Vishnu is within the heart of every living being. But actually, if we go back a little bit further, the yogis say that every living body has a soul in it, yes? And they say that the universe the Vishva, is also a living body. Does it make sense? Makes sense, yes? And they say, if the universe is a living body, then it must have an Atma, right? What is that Atma? It's the Paramatma, the great, the Native Americans, they said the universe has they said the word that they used in English, the Great Spirit. Yes, Yes. Have you read Black Elk Speaks? It's a good one. Yeah. The Great Spirit, Param Atma, right? So the universe has a Lord Vishnu in it that's actually so big we can't even begin to imagine. And he is the Atma of the universe. And then he expands actually he's the Atma of the entire material realm. From his body come unlimited universes. Then he becomes the Atma of every universe. Vishvatma is one name for Krishna or for Vishnu. Vishvatma, the soul of the universe. And then third expansion, he enters into the body of every living being. Right? He actually enters into every atom, which is kind of like a living thing, cell itself. And in this way, what does the word Vishnu mean? Anyone know? It means to pervade. Pervader. So Vishnu he's in every atom that exists in the entire universe. So his awareness is spread everywhere, like that. So in this sense, sometimes you hear these things in yoga teachings or Vedic teachings that the Supreme everything is within the Supreme and the Supreme is within everything. You understand? This is how, right? So the yogi is becoming conscious of that Paramatma. Everybody is a temple because the Paramatma, God is within every living body. And therefore, I'm going to end with this. Okay. Let's read about what happens when you realize the Paramatma. When it's no longer, I feel like I know it theoretically, but how deep has that knowledge become? That I'm fully seeing through it at every moment. That's where that surrender, that door that we need to pass through and not turn back. Sorry?
The boundaries of consciousness,
They diminish.
they diminish.
I'm not going there. I'm going to the 13th chapter. You see, Krishna said that these boundaries are eternal, actually. He said, and we read the verse earlier, Mamai Vangsho Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, Mamai Vangsa. They are he says, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, eternally. They are eternally my angsas, pieces, fragmental parts. He never says that we merge into one. When they come to the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna turns to Arjuna and says, have you heard everything? Have you understood everything? And Arjuna says, yes. And now I'm ready to follow your orders. He doesn't say, yes, and here's my universal form. Right? When Arjuna is no longer in illusion, he says, my illusion is now dispelled. He doesn't say, now I realize I am you and you are me. He says, I'm your servant eternally. Right? But what I want to read was from the 13th chapter, where it describes the 4 different ways that people realize the Paramatma, and then it describes the vision of one who has achieved this, who realizes this Paramatma, seeing the Paramatma everywhere. I really love these verses. End of the 13th chapter. You ready? You excited?
Yes.
Okay. This is what we should be excited about. This is what we should be fascinated with. The answers to the whole universe are right here. And we're watching all this other stuff go on. How can we be so dull? Okay. Beginning with text 27, 13th chapter. O Arjuna, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, like the humans and the trees, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower. The field is the material energy, and then there's the soul within it. That's what a tree is. That's what a human is. One who sees the super soul, the Paramatma, accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed actually sees. That's the only person that's truly seeing truth. Right? One who sees the supersoul equally present everywhere in every living being does not degrade themselves by their mind. This is so key to what it is to be a yogi. Right? Thus, they approach the transcendental destination. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created by the material nature, and sees that the self is nothing at all, actually sees. This gets back to the virtual reality, right? If you're in the virtual reality, you're actually doing nothing. It's all computer programming. This is how a yogi understands their own existence within this world. When a sensible person ceases to see identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, they attain to the Brahman conception. They transcend this world because they're seeing spirit. They're not confused by the external, constantly changing material energy. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. The sky, and now he gives an analogy, the sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all-pervading. Similarly, the soul, situated in Brahman vision, does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. We can be in this body, in this world, and be unaffected by it. O Arjuna, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. When you see the sun, you should be reminded that this universe is like a body, and that I am like the sun inside my own body, spreading my awareness like the sun spreads its rays. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and who can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. Chapter 13. Nice, huh? Beautiful. Good stuff. All the answers are right there. Vyasadeva, we're never going to forget this, went into deep meditation, downloaded all of this information, codified it in so many ways, and then gave it to us in the Mahabharata, and then just condensed it right into this book right here. None of all of the books of the Vedic literature and the books that stem from the Vedic literature by other authors, this is the one that's become by far the most influential, the most important to the yogis. Right? This book, Bhagavad Gita, clear, simple, practical. You know, that's why it's so important. It's practical, right? We can read this and not just armchair speculate about it. We can actually change ourselves. We can transform with the beautiful instructions. These instructions Krishna gave Arjuna on the battlefield. Nothing like them. Really so clear, so useful, so practical, and it's all here in this